Alright, rifle cleaning. I'll make it as short as I possibly can. Before you clean your rifle, you must understand what it is you're trying to clean. You must also understand how your gun likes to be shot. For example, guns that are cleaned in different ways will shoot differently from week to week. That means that if you clean this particular gun in a certain way one week, it's going to shoot differently the next week if you clean it differently the next week. If you return that rifle barrel to the same state, the same way each week, you're giving that rifle barrel or that gun a chance or more opportunity at shooting the same way, more consistently, more repeatably, giving you a better result and being a lot more predictable, which will make developing loads, if you're shooting for a score, you should end up with a better score, or if you're shooting animals to hunt, then result in a lot less missed shots. So let's get into the process and see how we go. So the first part of the process is my process. After finishing your shooting, you bring it home, get all your cleaning stuff out, and how I do it is I use this penetrating spray. I use a copper brush, nylon brush, patches, a ball mop, oil that I have had developed specifically for rifle lubrication, corrosion resistance, and barrel protection upon storage. So the process that I undertake is bring it home from shooting, get a plastic container, put on the floor in your workshop. Hold your gun vertical with the muzzle down to the plastic container, and you'll rinse the barrel with some penetrating spray. It can be any penetrating spray. Be careful to not spill it all over your gun. And I use a bore guide, but don't spill it all over your stock or whatever it is. It may affect the timber and whatnot. But it's got to be a penetrating spray that has very, very low or next to no oil in it. It's the penetrating part of the solvent that you're utilising. And at this point, you're only using that solvent. You're only using it as a rinsing agent. It's a softening and a rinsing agent to get rid of the carbon fouling. That's the only part that this penetrating spray is being used for. So you'll hold your gun vertical with the muzzle in the plastic container. You will put a bore guide in. You'll spray some solvent down the bore, thoroughly saturating the inside of the bore. You'll take your copper brush on your cleaning rod, and you'll run that copper brush through the barrel all the way through and out the muzzle and all the way back and out the chamber for 20 or 25 passes. You'll remove the cleaning rod, you'll stand the rifle back over your plastic container, and you'll rinse. Now what you'll see initially is that liquid that you rinse out, the solvent, that will be very heavily contaminated with black carbon, ash, soot, and the loosening of the ceramic fouling that you're scrubbing off the bore. Continue that process until that solvent is basically rinsing out the muzzle into your container, just as clear as it's going in. That's indicating to you that you've near on scrubbed out the entire amount of carbon fouling. Now, the part to the process is where you've got to find out how your gun shoots is. Process A is clean all of the carbon fouling out first. Then patch the barrel dry, and then run an oily bore mop through the bore to give the bore a layer of corrosion resistant oil on storage. Then that will get left until you shoot it the next weekend. Take the gun out, test it, and see how it likes after being cleaned like that. If it doesn't shoot well, or if it does shoot well, then you know that you're on the road to a process that will work for you. If it doesn't shoot well, then you may have to come home, repeat that process that I've just described, But the second part to the process is you may need to remove the copper fouling portion and then take it out and shoot. So to remove the copper fouling portion, you will, as I described earlier, you'll scrub and rinse the bore until the solvent rinses clear. You'll patch it dry. Then you will use your choice of copper removal solvent. I like to use Boretec Eliminator. It has no ill effect on the bore whatsoever. But the method in using that copper removing solvent is a nylon brush, right? With an aluminium core, not a brass core. That's important. If you've got a brass core, that brass core will have a reaction with the bore solvent, and it will give you an incorrect colour indicator on whether or not you're still removing the copper or not. Now what you'll do is you'll wrap, you need to use patches like this, like on the table here. You'll use strips that come off a roll like that, and you cut the strips in half. So between red lines, you'll get 2 pieces. Cut them into half strips and you'll wrap them around that. Let me see if I can get it a bit clearer. You'll wrap it around that nylon brush. Soak the eliminator or your whatever solvent you're going to use onto that patch, and you'll run that patch in and out the bore all the way through and out the muzzle and all the way back the other direction and out the chamber. You'll need to do that about 10 passes all the way through and back out the other direction. Then you'll pull the patch out and you'll reapply some eliminator. Initially, you don't need to keep changing the patch. You can use the same patch with 4 or 5 applications of your given solvent, because you're going to be removing a lot. You're going to get a large colour change initially, because there will be a fair bit of copper in there. After you've done 4, 5 or 6 applications of 10 passes with the first patch, remove that first patch off the nylon brush and change it to a clean one, and repeat that process. Soak the patch, run it through the bore until you've repeated that process, and basically that patch with new solvent on it being applied is giving you no colour change at all. That's the indicator to you that you've basically removed all of the copper. Now, after you've finished that and you're happy and you're satisfied you've got all the copper out, patch that dry, run the bore mop through with oil to put a corrosion resistant layer on the bore for storage, clean out the chamber, put the bolt back in, store, or however you decide to store it, and store. Ready for the next weekend. Take the gun out the next weekend and shoot the gun with the bore in that condition. Now you should be able to notice a difference between how the condition of the bore was, just with carbon in it, with no carbon and no copper. You'll work out which way it likes to be shot better. Some guns just like to have all the fouling left in, and I'm not an advocate of leaving all the fouling in and just running an oily bore mop or a snake down the bore. The spent gunpowder in your bore is far too corrosive to be left in there. I personally think that the most consistent bore condition is a clean bore, and you need to work out what load or what factory ammo works in your gun from clean bore state. But some guns just don't shoot well clean bore. They like to have carbon, they like to have copper, or one of the two, or a combination of the two. Your job is to work out what is the best condition so that your gun shoots as good as it possibly can. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask, and I'm happy to help with whatever I possibly can. Cheers.